jewel-encrusted crucifix walking free? Why isn't she behind bars? What's happening?
Well, Nancy, she is actually at this point out on bail. And what we know is she is charged with one count of capital murder, which in that jurisdiction should be death by lethal injection. So you're right. It is very surprising to see her walking around carefree right now.
Unleash the lawyers. Joining me out of Miami, Ken Padowitz, former prosecutor, Dwane Cates, defense attorney, L.A., Holly Hughes, defense attorney, former prosecutor, Atlanta. All right. What I don't understand is why she's only charged with one count. Ken Padowitz, explain.
Well, apparently, this is a very difficult case to prove. It's based on circumstantial evidence. Luckily, they don't have but one. They have two eyewitnesses who actually see her injecting this poison toxin into these individuals. So they put together a case, and they're able to prosecute her for first-degree murder. But apparently, based on that, there's a number of different things that they have to look at, and that's why she's still walking while they try this.
Okay, take a look at that video I just saw, Liz. Let's roll it again. I think this is a huge error, a tactical error by the defense. Not that video, the video of her in court. I would not want my client standing beside that medical equipment, Holly Hughes. Why put that in the jury's head? There she is hovering over the equipment. I would take that away pronto, Holly.
Absolutely, Nancy. You know, it's like when you used to prosecute, you always wanted to get the defendant up to hold the gun, and that just freaks the jury out. So, no, you do not want her next to what the jury is going to call the instrument of death. I would absolutely not have her anywhere near it, and if the prosecution tried to get her to do it, I would object like nobody's business. Kill the visual, Nancy. Keep her in her seat.
And another thing, Holly Hughes, another reason that I think is a tactical decision to go forward with just one murder, because if they are dead set on getting her on a death penalty case, why put all the murders together? If they fail on one murder, there's always another to try her on the death penalty. That's the tactical thinking, I guarantee you, that went into their decision to try her on one murder to start with, Holly.
Absolutely, Nancy, because this case is not as strong as everybody's making it out to be. We hear that there's two eyewitnesses. What we haven't heard is that their stories are inconsistent, they keep changing, and they're not credible.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Holly Hughes, but what I do know, Dwane Cates, is you don't get Clorox bleach in your system by accident, Cates. This is intentional.
It is intentional. I mean, it may be intentional, you don't know. Here's the deal. They got to put the syringe in her hand. They got to put her there doing it. Now, they've got a couple witnesses that say they saw that, but you know what? One of those witnesses is almost blind.
This woman, a young brunette nurse, now under suspicion of poisoning patients at a high-end medical facility. One by one, they drop dead. Police never thinking to search the blood for Clorox bleach. We are taking your calls. The three attorneys would have you believe that this is a very, very weak case made on circumstantial evidence. Two eyewitnesses were old, were in poor health. One was nearly blind, who say they saw her draw bleach, Clorox bleach, straight out of the mop and pail and inject it into the medical equipment. Unleash those lawyers, Ken Padowitz, Dwane Cates, Holly Hughes. Let's put them to the test. They think the case is so weak. Okay, Holly Hughes, a yes-no for you. I know we're all lawyers, and it's hard to answer yes-no, but I'm going to test you. Holly, if I were to seize, pursuant to warrant, of course, your laptop computer, would I find searches that said bleach poisoning? Can bleach be detected in dialysis lines? Would I find that search on your laptop? Okay. Dwane Cates, would I find that search on your laptop computer?
Yes, I had to do research for this show.
Before today, Kim.
They're not on my computer, no. And I think this is a strong case, Nancy. I agree with you. I don't think it's a weak case.
I think
and
you're
you
right,
wouldn't have found it on my
Okay.
computer before today.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Stacey Newman, let's break the news to the two defense attorneys on the show about what was discovered on her computer.
Well, Nancy, it all comes back to good old Google and Yahoo searches. Investigators, when they seized Kim Sign's computer, they saw searches for bleach poisoning. And get this, it was only 1 day after the first two patients died. Then, a couple weeks later, another search, this one a lot more specific. Can bleach be detected in dialysis lines?
Can you imagine sending your ailing mother, father, grandmother, child to this facility only to learn a young brunette nurse systematically murdering patients one after the next by injecting deadly doses of raw bleach into their equipment, bleach straight out of the mop and pail? You mean the computer searches? I think that it would. To the lawyers, Ken Padowitz, Dwane Cates, Holly Hughes, I want you to take a listen to this summary of what the state hopes to prove. Out to you, Clark Goldband. What does the state have against this girl?
Well, Nancy, the state says they have those multiple eyewitnesses that saw her inject the bleach. Also, according to reports, since the facility noticed that patients were all of a sudden dying and becoming ill, they saved a lot of that tubing and a lot of that equipment, so that can be tested as traces for bleach. Also, the state has those two very significant computer searches that we know of. Now, Nancy, on the other hand, the defense seems to be arguing they're not disputing the fact that some patients may have seen her injecting this bleach, but it was only to measure the proper amount of bleach to clean the machines. The defense also complains that the amount of chlorine in the water was 15 times higher than an acceptable limit.
Back to Nurse Roberta Michaels. Roberta, I understand that sometimes a bleach solution is used to clean the dialysis machines. But wouldn't that cleaning be done at a different time than when the patient is hooked up to the dialysis machine?
They're hooked up to a machine. The blood, they have two sites. One needle goes in one place, another needle goes in another site. That's what's called a fistula, where an artery and vein are connected. The blood goes out into the machine. It's cleaned. It goes back into the patient's body.
And how long does the process take?
It can be, it's individualized. Generally, it's around 3 hours. It could be 4 hours. It could be 4.5 hours, 3 times a week.
We are taking your calls. A young brunette nurse now under suspicion of being a serial killer. Back to Stacey Newman. Stacey, there must be hundreds of patients now concerned that their loved one died out of this clinic because of this nurse.
Well, that's something actually investigators are probably looking into. I mean, my grandfather did dialysis for years before he passed away. So if I had a loved one at this facility, I'd be demanding investigators look into that. 5 patients dead,
And
5 injured, many grandparents, many great-grandparents, Nancy.
And Clark Goldband, isn't it true that one witness says they saw her draw out Clorox bleach straight out of the mop and pail?
That's right, Nancy. She said that pail was usually on the floor. This time it was on the counter, and saw her draw the syringe with this Clorox bleach solution. The defense says she was just preparing to clean the machine later with the syringe.